Good morning, good evening, Merry Christmas to everybody. Welcome back to the 100% Stock YouTube channel. So we've got some updates on Ashtray as well as our F136 powered Boxster. Y'all haven't seen it on the channel in a little bit. We have made some progress on it finally, but before we get into those, we are going to talk about our burnouts from November at the Burnout Rivals. So me and Locust both went out there. I was in Ashtray, he was in Hot Garbage. He ended up taking home third in Open, which was just absolutely unexpected, and we're incredibly happy about it. But we're going to sit down and we're going to kind of go into detail of what we were doing and when and our thoughts and everything. So let's go do that real quick.
Given that this was quite literally our first win since starting any of this shit, figured maybe it'd be worth kind of talking about what it was like from my end. First things first, getting the wheels going at the start, I noticed that the brake was like really soft, so sat there pumping it, and then the guy's like, go, 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 and just kind of stopped on it. We can't shift from first to second at red line, so you kind of got to time it, you got to feel the tires break loose, and then granny shift into second. And then the way I like to start my burnouts is always just sitting there in second on the rev limiter for a few seconds, make sure that there's smoke going on. I can't actually see it from where I'm sitting, but I know it's happening. And then usually I'll try going for third just to see how the truck reacts to the surface. We're right at a limit on the power where on some surfaces it'll do third gear just fine, on other surfaces it'll kind of bog. With this one I didn't even bother, I just kind of went for it. I was already starting to slide a little bit, so there wasn't really much time to play around, so I get going. A lot of this is not me really knowing what I'm doing as much as just feeling what the truck's doing and then reacting to it. As I start, the truck is kind of tipping to the right some. That was happening to a lot of people because of where they were starting us on the bank. So it's tipping right, and that's generally what I try to do for a tip-in, is to turn the opposite direction that I'm going to do the tip-in. So I'm planning to tip left, bringing the truck to go a little bit pointing to the right so you can build up that momentum when you finally whip it around. So when I do whip it around, in this case, I now have the cutting brake in the truck. So as soon as I tip it in and you start feeling the back end of the truck coming around, that's when I hit that brake forward, lock up the left tire, and you can kind of see in the video at that point that it really picks up speed in that whip. And then I was just staying there, full lock, brake forward. My goal was to get a full 360 in the truck. Didn't quite do that. I think I needed a little bit more speed. I did want to go further across the pad before doing the tip-in, but I just kind of timed it wrong. So anyways, there I am, roughly the middle of the pad. Bumper apparently went flying, as it does. And now I'm just trying to kind of orient myself because you don't really know what way you're facing when the truck stops. As soon as I finish that tip-in, now facing the crowd, there's smoke to my right. I want to try and stay out of the smoke. So my goal, move the truck away from the smoke, which in turn spreads the smoke, which means I have fewer places to go. It's kind of like a big game of Snake with the burnout. I didn't have a route that I wanted to do across the pad as much as just being like, I'm going to do shit over here, and then when I can't see things anymore, I'm going to try to get over there and do the same thing. At one point, I actually came out of the smoke, I was facing the crowd, and the momentum of the truck was already carrying it towards the wall. I'm coming at a good angle. I can tap this wall without it being like damaging, you know, not to the truck, but at least to the wall. So I went for that tap. I was building up more speed, heading towards another wall, and I noticed again, the angle seemed good. So I stuck with it, tapped another wall, and at this point, but I was moving pretty damn fast, and I also saw straight ahead of me Cletus and all of them right there by the entry chute. I'm heading straight for him, and it was enough speed where I'm like, okay, I need to do a 360. I also need to get off the throttle. But yeah, saved it just in front of him, turned back around, went back out into the pad. At that point, there was so much smoke everywhere. I was just kind of creeping around in the middle of it, trying to find a way out. And I'm also wondering at that point, when are these tires going to blow? Because typically, every set of tires we've thrown on this truck, 70 seconds, maybe 80 seconds, they're both gone. This was noticeably taking longer, and a lot of people throughout the entire day were having trouble blowing their tires. People we know that we've never seen fail to blow tires didn't manage to do it down there. Yeah, one went off. I'm like, did they go off at the same time? Did I forget that the other one went off? I was like, whatever, I'm going to just stick into it. And luckily, about another 10, 15 seconds later, other tire goes, barely within time for the clock, and the whole thing was over. I was like, that felt like an awesome run. Very happy and very proud of the truck.
My turn. The story for my burnout, I'm going to start a few minutes before it, because that's where some of our drama went down, which was just ridiculous. So I'm up along the banks, in line, and there's 5 or 6 cars ahead of me. And one of the guys down there on the infield goes, "Hey, you're dripping water." And because I had the truck sitting there idling, just kind of ready to rock and roll. We're slowly moving forward as cars are going. And I look down, and sure enough, right in front of the front left tire, there's just water dripping out. My first thought was, oh no, this thing's overheating again at idle. Because it had been doing that. We thought we solved it, but it had been doing that. And so I reach in, shut the truck off. Pop the hood, and I realize, oh yeah, we totally forgot to ever put a puke tank on the radiator. There's just the line coming out from under the cap, sitting there. So, okay, so it's actually no big deal. Temp gauge reads 185. We're actually okay. It was just spitting a little water, because they do that. Once the system comes up to pressure, it's usually going to spit at least a little bit of water out of that hose. And we never put a bottle there. Oops. So I'll go to start the truck back up. And earlier that day, we had taken the starter button off because we thought the starter button had failed. You push the button, nothing happens. So I was just touching the 2 wires together to start the truck. Well, I touched those 2 wires together, and it just goes click. The starter doesn't fully engage and turn. Crap. Click, 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 click. There's 3 cars ahead of me, click, click, click. 2 cars ahead of me, click, click, click. The guy in front of me goes, click, 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 click. As the guy ahead of me finished his burnout, they were talking to him for a second. That's when it finally starts. And you can hear it on the live stream. You can hear this thing fire up in the background. I'm so happy, and I'm still 50 yards away from the start line. Guys waving me to come forward. So I just throw my helmet and gloves on and just get up there to start. What I didn't notice was that because I would just slam my helmet and gloves on and went up there, that those 2 wires that I'd been touching together, because I'd been holding them and touching them for 5-10 minutes straight, they had bent. So now they were sitting there and touching. So the starter was basically trying to stay engaged. And I couldn't hear it because this thing's, especially from the inside, is obnoxious. But Lucas, among other people that were on the sidelines, heard it, and it did not sound good. Whatever, I couldn't hear it. So the guy says go. I start off in first, and because this is also Turbo 400, just like hot garbage, you don't want to shift 1 to second add red line, you want to short shift it. So I go 1-2 really quick, let it build up a bit in second, go into third. It goes up into third, it gets to about 5,500 RPM, doesn't seem to want to go higher than that. So I just let off the brakes, going to do a tip in. And the same as Lucas, I wanted to go further across the pad, because one thing we've been watching for a couple of burnouts now is we notice a lot of guys tip in really early, and they might go a quarter or maybe a third of the way across the pad. Well, the pad's pretty large. It's a big rectangle, and you're coming in diagonally. So we wanted to use as much of that room as possible. But as this thing starts going, I start picking up a lot more speed than I had expected. So I got a little nervous, and I yanked the wheel in a bit earlier than I was intending to. I still went about halfway across the pad, and I'm still happy with it. So I get into the tip in, and as it starts rotating, you can hear the truck just bog and basically die for a second. Pretty sure that's because this is a carbureted vehicle, and the fuel in the bowls got sloshed away from the little pickups that are in there. And so it basically just dies for half a second. I was hoping to also do at least a 360, but because it bogged and died, it only kind of went most of the way around. And then you hear it pick up again, and then I do the same thing. I come to almost a complete stop because I'm trying to orientate myself. And same thing, I see the smoke to my left, and I see the wall with the big screen right in front of me, so I know where I'm at. So I come forward, and I start to come around. As I'm making my way around, I didn't really think of it, but I turned into my own smoke, so I really couldn't see too well. So I kind of just let it kind of keep going. I have a vague idea of where I'm at, and I see the wall come out of the smoke, and so I turn a little more, and I didn't realize this while driving it, but in the video you can see the truck be a little sideways and you can just barely see it twitch, and it turns out I did touch the wall just ever so slightly. So I got that tiny little wall tap in, continue to make it come most of the way down along the long side of the rectangle, and then, you know, I cut it in, and I come in to do some donuts, and it does 2 or 3 donuts pretty good. In the truck especially, it felt like I was spinning really fast. In the video, it doesn't look overly impressive, but it looks cool. You know, blowing the tires, having a great time. But then after I go around, I think twice, I feel it start to lose power. So I start to come out of the donut, and that's when it just falls completely on its face. You know, I lost power. I keep trying to go for a little bit here, kind of basically in denial that my run was basically over. I even, at one point I put it into neutral, brought it up to about 3,500, put it back into first to see if I could just jump start it back into it. But it was just too hot and it didn't have the power, so that's when I made the loop and I exited. And then once it was parked on the backstretch and turned off, I saw the temp gauge was at 260. So it got a little warm. All in all, this is the best debut we've had since this is this truck's first test run. We literally got it running decently basically that day. I had to put more accelerator pump in it because when you floored it, it would chug a little bit before it really went. Put more accelerator pump in it right there in the pits, took it out up and down the road. So for a debut, you know, it was good. We can see the potential in it. The overheating is not a big surprise. That is by far the biggest issue everyone has with doing burnout vehicles. It doesn't take much to do a burnout, but it takes a lot of cooling to sustain a burnout without overheating the crap out of your rig. So that's what this one fell to. We don't really have a good fan shroud on it, which is probably 90% of why. Overall, I'm very satisfied with how my burnout went. It went about as good as we could have expected. We don't have rods hanging out the block. The engine ran all the way out the exit to when I parked it. It putted itself there, no problems. We don't think the engine is hurt at all. It just, now we need to put a starter solenoid on it because of the whole issue that I mentioned of the wires touching and the starter staying on the whole time. Yeah, it burned up the starter solenoid. So I can't start it to like absolutely confirm nothing's hurt. But I pulled the spark plugs, they look okay. I checked the oil, it looks okay. Everything looks fine. So I think we might have got away with it. Kind of sums up my entire burnout. Yeah, we're doing real good now. I'll read it. All right, now that we did that, let's get to the updates. We'll do the Porsche first. So if any of y'all have been following us for long enough, you know, one of the biggest issues we have with the Porsche is that we keep blowing up transmissions. So here's 2 of them right here. So we keep blowing these up. The red one was the more recent one. That one blew up on a bad downshift at the track. And the reason we keep blowing up is we keep trying to use the stock Boxster 5-speeds from the 99 to like 04 Boxster. The 2000 to 2004 Boxster S has a much stronger 6-speed transmission, but those have just been really expensive, so we haven't gotten one. But those 5-speeds keep going up in price, so it's no longer financially reasonable for us to keep getting these 5-speeds and keep blowing them up. So we finally got one of the 6-speeds. Now, I don't have them side by side for y'all to compare, but the 5-speeds, you know, one person can pretty much just pick up one of those 5-speeds. This 6-speed weighs substantially more. I think this is about 100 pounds, maybe 120 pounds, so it's a lot less simple to just pick it up. We found a couple on eBay that were good price and decent mileage, so we snagged one. We don't have a time frame yet on when that might be back together, but we are definitely moving forward on that. So if you like the F136 Boxster, you know, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and you will see it soon. So I did a little more digging. So you see something right there that's missing? In fact, I'm holding one. So ended up taking this off. Neither of these were in the bore. These were both just scattered around here in the valley. And I figured out why. See that? I am pressing down on this lifter. It doesn't really move. Watch this one. You see that movement? Yeah, I can pretty easily just squish it like that. Also, you can see that that little clip is bent up. I don't know if that's a symptom or the cause, either way. So, turns out we collapsed a lifter. It let the push rod come out, and then the cam kicked the lifter completely out of the bore. It looks like that the bad lifter came out first, came up sideways, hit the push rod for the lifter next to it, knocked that one out too. Now, granted, the truck might have started to lose some power because it was getting hot. The coolant temp was like 260. But kicking 2 lifters out is also bad. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put new lifters in it. The lifters that are in it are all Comp Cams lifters. They all came with the camshaft. It's a Comp Cams camshaft as well. After a little bit of digging around online, turns out these Comp Cams flat tappet lifters are all like cheap Chinese ones, and there's a lot of accounts of them failing on people. Their camshafts are still good, as evidenced by the fact that it did all this and it's still okay. Their lifters just ain't great. And so I started digging and I started looking around, and it turns out it's actually really hard to find quality flat tappet lifters. Well, quality flat tappet hydraulic lifters. That's the catch. Yes, I guess at this point I'm looking back on it, we should have gone solid, but whatever it is what it is, we've got what we've got. Hydraulic, you don't ever have to worry about adjusting, valve lash and any of that crap. So what I've got over here, look, new lifters. Got them sitting there soaking in the juice. They've actually been in there for like a day and a half. I was dragging my feet a little bit on getting this done because it's gotten a little chilly out, and I am not a cold weather person. I'm like a reptile. I like the sunlight and I like the heat. But first things first, I got to tear all this stuff out, get all those lifters out. I don't trust any of them anymore. I might keep these as like a backup or a spare, but I don't want to actively run them right now. We already had one failure. Lots of accounts online of people talking about them failing a lot. The new lifters that I've got over there, the new ones, those are GM performance. They're actually made by GM. Supposedly those are basically the best hydraulic flat tappet lifters left on the market. Morrell and Johnson also used to make them, but it looks like they actually no longer manufacture flat tappet cams. Everyone's going to rollers. Once again, I guess we could have gone to roller and it probably would be better overall, but we didn't. We have what we have, so we're just going to send it. If we have any more issues in the future, yeah, maybe we'll go roller. But if we have that much trouble with this motor again, it's coming out. I'm kind of over the 383, the small block Chevy life. If we blow this up again, it's just going to get an LS. It's just a better engine. It's more modern. So anyway, I'm procrastinating. I'm rambling, so let's just get some actual work done. So I got all the rockers off, so I'm just going to pull the push rods and lifters out. Now, ordinarily, when you're pulling these lifters out, you would have to make extra super sure that they're going back exactly where you took them out from. But since these lifters aren't going back in, that's not a worry. Something that makes this a lot easier, use a magnet on a stick to pull your lifters out. Just like that. I am going to look at all these lifters once I have them out and see if any of the others are showing signs of collapsing. Well, actually, all I'm going to do is take the push rod and push on them and see if they wiggle at all. They shouldn't. They should still be pumped up with oil. Even though it's been a couple of weeks since this truck ran, they should still have pressure in them. They shouldn't leak down too quickly. Ooh, what's this? I've got a tiny, can you even see that? It almost looks like a piece of a paper clip. And my camera's not focusing on it. Come on. I don't know what. Either way, you could see this. It's just a tiny piece of metal that was in there. That can be problematic. I'm not sure what that is. So you see that? I made that. This was a plain black breather, but I have access to a laser engraver at work, so I engraved that. That's why it's off center and kind of looks like crap. Look at what I just found. There's another random little piece of metal in there. Now that's clearly a shaving off of something. Ooh, okay. Look at that. You see that on the side of the lifter? Some more shavings. Why is this camera not focusing? Come on, work with me, man. That's aluminum. That's not magnetic. I've got a shard of aluminum right there. And then I got another little piece of steel that is magnetic. I'm sorry the camera's not focusing. Usually it does better than this. Got another piece right there. All right, there we go. So we got the lifters in, rockers on. I just put the fresh RTV on the intake manifold, so I gotta let that sit and cure, because the next step is I need to drop the distributor in, turn the motor over a little bit, build some oil pressure, get pressure in the lifters. Then I can torque down the rockers. Because if you torque down the rockers with no pressure in the lifters, it'll just squeeze down the lifters. Then once the engine runs and builds pressure, it'll push them back up, and everything's bad. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna get this started today, but I will get it started tomorrow. So I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon. All right, well, it's the next day, and you remember all those things I said I was going to do? Well, I did it. So we got oil pressure, I got the rockers all torqued down and all, well, they're not torqued because they don't have a torque spec, they're tightened down. So now I'm going to just slap the rest of this stuff back on and let's see if we can get it started real quick. Okay, I think that's everything. All right, that's going to be about it for this video. I know there's not a lot going on. It's the winter. Lucas is actually off visiting family for the holidays right now. We've got 4 months till the next Burnout competition, so we're not trying to thrash too hard. I just wanted to get this thing running again. I kind of want to drive it to work once or twice just for fun because it is registered and insured. It's half the reason we wanted to build this to a Burnout truck, so we can have a project that we can still drive around and enjoy, because hot garbage, no. So look forward for more videos, coming at some point. Obviously, we don't have a schedule. We upload whenever we do stuff. Don't know what we're going to be doing next. We have a transmission for the Porsche. There are going to have to be some things modified before we can put the transmission in the Porsche. So we're not sure exactly when we're going to be doing that yet. We do still have a little bit of work that needs done on the S10 and hot garbage. But once again, we have 4 months until the next Burnout event, at least the next proper one. We'll probably do a little practice session before then. A little bit of work needs to happen on the bus, but we're gonna take that to a shop because neither of us are diesel guys, and we do want the bus to be reliable because we rely on it. That's all for now, I suppose. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that fun stuff, and we'll see y'all again soon.